Jrue Holiday steps up in the absence of Derek White. Then Drew Carter, Mike Gorman's heir apparent, joins us for a fun conversation. That's next on Green with Envy. All right, everybody. Solo intro today. Greg Manegas here with you. We're going to start with a morning box score. The Celtics take care of business on the road without Derek White, who is off being a good dad, everybody. Going to see the birth of your children. That means you're being a good dad, not a bad teammate. Shout out to Derek and his family. In his stead, Jrue Holiday led the Celtics to a 124-114 victory in Brooklyn. For the Nets, they started small, starting all guards and wings. Nick Claxton did not play last night, and the Celtics took advantage. Cam Thomas led the way for the Nets with 27 points, seemingly getting wherever he wanted on the court. Three-pointers, mid-range, floaters. Cam Thomas did what Cam Thomas does. Mikal Bridges, he struggled in the first half, but he did catch fire in the second half to finish with 19.6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. Spencer Dinwiddie did Dinwiddie things, shooting 8 for 14 from the field. The Nets were on the second night of a back-to-back, and it was pretty obvious that their legs were starting to go towards the end of that game as the Celtics just kept pouring it on and on and on. My favorite thing about the Celtics this year is Jrue Holiday getting the ball, pushing it out in transition, and he was great in this game. For the Celtics, they did have trouble containing the Nets off the bounce without Derek White, but their offense didn't miss a beat, scoring 70 points again in the first half. Jrue Holiday led the way with an all-around performance, finishing 1 assist shy of a triple-double. 18 points for Jrue, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, 1 block, 4 big three-pointers without the second member of the stock exchange. Shout out Richard White. Jayson Tatum's early MVP campaign continued with another 30-point double-double. Tatum now has 3 double-digit rebounding games. The only 2 were when where he didn't get 10 were games in which he sat the entire fourth quarter. The Celtics have blown out 2 opponents. Jayson Tatum sits the fourth quarter. He doesn't get to his 10 rebounds. Greg loses his bet on those days. But if the Celtics are going to be in the game, everybody, Jayson Tatum is going to get double-digit rebounds. Continue to bet over 9.5 rebounds for Tatum. Al Horford stepped up as the Celtics' 5th starter with a vintage performance, finishing a team best plus 29 on the night, including a key steal in transition late in the game to seal it for the C's. Al also threw down a nice alley-oop off a pass from JB in transition, for which he somehow got a technical foul for hanging on the rim in, I guess, what was a disrespectful way. Really tough night for our girl, Natalie Sago. She seems like the least popular official in the league at this point. If you remember last year, I think it was a game in Chicago. It was Mark Davis and Natalie Sago that were calling the game. And Grant Williams got kicked out of the game for bumping into an official. That was Natalie Sago. The Celtics and most NBA teams seem to, for whatever reason, not really like how she calls the game. She's really struggling as an official. I hope she figures it out. Not a great look for her last night. She made some tough calls. Kristaps Porzingis was dominant from the jump without Nick Claxton to contend in the paint. The Celtics went to him early and often in the restricted area to take advantage of all mismatches. The first play of the game got Kristaps right at the edge of the restricted area for an easy bucket. Second play, same action. Kristaps missed the shot, but he was dominant inside. He had some great moments on the defensive end in the fourth quarter. He had 3 blocks on the night. I think all of them were in the fourth quarter. I'm not sure about that, but Kristaps was 8 for 10 from the field for 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 big blocks. Only 1 3-pointer from the unicorn, but it was from the logo, literally from the logo, and it got a great reaction out of our guy, Drew Carter, who is going to be on the second half of this podcast, sitting down with me and Will. Great conversation with Jrue. So make sure you stick around for that. At the beginning of that conversation, we talk a little bit about how he got the job. I know he's talked about that on a couple different podcasts, but then typical Green with Envy fashion, we just take the conversation in a very fun direction with Jrue. You're going to hear him do a great Ted Lasso, Roy Kent impression. So stick around for the fast break, which is at the end of that interview. But we talk about Wemby. We talk about Jokic. We talk about the Sixers. We talk about everything. The conversation just goes in all these different places. Jrue is a really good guy. Super excited that he came on the pod. And that we're developing that relationship and that he's getting to call these away games, stepping in for the GOAT, Mike Gorman. Drew Carter, thank you again. Jaylen Brown struggled from the floor, but somehow scored 7 points in the last 3 minutes to beat the over-under of 22.5, which I thought, honestly, everybody, I thought won me this huge parlay. On the edge of my seat in the game where the Celtics were clearly pulling away at the end, but Jaylen comes in, hits a layup, hits 2 free throws, and he needs a 3-pointer. He had that one that went in and out that Kristaps tapped back in, but he hits the one with like 30 seconds left in the game. And I think I win this big parlay, but then I find out that Jrue Holiday's steal was actually credited to Sam Hauser, which makes sense. Sam got the deflection, Jrue recovered the ball, but I kind of thought it was the person who recovered the ball, not the person who had the initial deflection. I thought maybe Jrue would have got that steal. My parlay last night, I had Tatum over 28.5, Tatum over 9.5 boards, Jaylen over 22.5, Holiday with a block and a steal, and Bridges with a block. $5 to win 240. NBA, I need to speak with your statisticians. I need to figure out the rules on that. Anyways, Jaylen had a few nice passes, finished with 4 assists. He had that great lob to Al in the fourth quarter that I mentioned earlier. He also had a really nice lob to Kristaps running directly at the rim. And Kristaps, I thought he was going to throw it down Wemby style with the reverse, but he just went with a regular dunk. Super excited, by the way, for whenever the Celtics do get to play the Spurs. I'm pretty sure Will and I are going to be in attendance for that New Year's Eve with our lovely fiancés, and seeing Kristaps versus Wemby is going to be fun. The one thing I want to see more than anything is just them standing next to each other, because these pictures of Wemby, oh my God. Sometimes you think he's 7'8". Sometimes he looks a little bit more normal. But the pictures standing next to Kevin Durant were insane. Kevin Durant, by all accounts, is 7 feet tall. And Wemby, I think, had him by an entire head. So Kristaps, who's listed at 7'3", Wemby's listed at 7'4". We'll see when they stand next to each other. How tall is Wemby? How tall is Kristaps? We will find out when the Celtics play the Spurs. For the Celtics bench, Sam Hauser had 2 steals and a 3, but the real story was Luke Kornet. I was all out on Luke playing big minutes this year off the bench. I thought he looked awful in the preseason and even worse in limited minutes this year. I was really advocating for more Lamar Stevens, more O'Shea Brissett. If Luke, if we needed the size, Luke is going to get those reps. And I was advocating still for Luke to get reps against big size. But Keita is always going to be there as an option. He's the backup quarterback, so to speak, for the backup big in this situation, where everyone's going to think that he is, better than he is until he gets to prove it on the floor. But Luke has Keita there for, Celtics diehards to think what could happen if Luke Kornet was not the Celtics third big. But he put all the haters, the rest last night. Luke was awesome. He was great in the pick and roll with Jrue Holiday. He ran a nice pick and roll with Peyton Pritchard at one point, and he just ran the floor hard and with purpose. That's one thing that I need to see out of Luke on the offensive side of the ball with the Celtics. Push to push the ball in transition. Luke's got to be able to get up and down the court, and I think he did a really good job with that last night. He did have a few moments where Day'Ron Sharpe bodied him, but for the most part, Luke earned a few more minutes this year, and he earned Greg Maneikis to shut the hell up, advocating for more Lamar Stevens. Luke Kornet, you played a great game. He was a perfect 5 for 5 from the field, finishing with 11 points and 7 rebounds. Other takeaways from the night, if you look at the Celtics box score here as a team, 11 blocks for the Celtics. At one point, late in the second half. The Celtics hadn't forced any turnovers, but they really ratcheted up the defense. So let's see, they finished with 4 steals. I'm sorry, they had 6 blocks, 4 steals. So 10 stocks for the stock exchange. I know that's only applied to Jrue Holiday and Derek White, but forgive me. We had 50 rebounds total. Got to the line 27 times. Great night from the line for the Celtics. 23 for 27, 85% from the field. 3-pointers, shot 45 3-pointers, 15 for 45, 33%. But, when I look at that, he was 2 for 11. He had a bunch of threes that went in and out. So that very easily could have been 18 for 45. Love seeing Tatum shooting 3-pointers at a high clip to start the season. He was 6 for 10. Jrue Holiday, as I mentioned, 4 for 9. Peyton Pritchard, 0 for 4. O'Shea Brissett, 1 for 4. O'Shea, let's see you attacking the rim just a little bit more there. But O'Shea was okay in his 10 minutes off the bench. We don't need O'Shea to do much other than crash the glass and be aggressive. We'd like to see more from Peyton Pritchard. Another game where he didn't really make an impact in the scoring department. He played almost 20 minutes. He was 0 for 4 from the field. He did have 2 assists. That assist I mentioned in the pick and roll to Luke Cornett was a really high-level read in the pick and roll. Joe Mazzulla's glasses. I know it was because he had eye irritation last night, but I think Joe Mazzulla, consider sticking with that look. You're a different breed anyway, Joe. Just like lean into that a little bit more. But overall, I thought the Celtics were great in this game. The first half notwithstanding, the first half, it seemed like they had a lot of trouble adjusting to not having Derek White on the court, to the Nets going completely small and committing to that and just shooting a lot of 3-pointers. How many threes did the Nets shoot last night? They shot 52. It's not very often you see a team shoot more 3-pointers than the Celtics. They only hit 17 of those threes, but that really kept them in the game. They were firing away. Royce O'Neal, he kind of killed them, 2 for 13, pretty much wide open all night on those 3-pointers. If you look at you look at the Nets and you see Mikal Bridges, Royce O'Neal, Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Thomas, Spencer Dinwiddie against a Celtics lineup that goes 7-3, 6-9, 6-9, 6-6, 6-4. We're going to win most of that. And, the Celtics were what? They were +8 on the boards last night. We had 10 offensive rebounds, 10 offensive rebounds as well. Dorian Finney-Smith was crashing the glass. They were on sharp, had 3. But I thought the Celtics, they showed they were the better team throughout. Initially, I was a little bit worried because of how many 3-pointers the Nets were putting up there. I'm not a big proponent in basketball as math, but I did think that Jacques Vaughn came out with a good plan. Second night of a back-to-back. They were doing their very best to hang with the Celtics, who are world beaters, even though they were sans Derek White dad for a second time. All right. Well, that's going to do that for this morning box score, this intro to the real meat of this episode. Drew Carter joins Will Weir and Greg Manakis here on Green with Envy.